Debrief always says coaches need to plan better. Olympics 2000, coaches need to plan better. And surprisingly, Olympics 2012, coaches need to plan better. So that's why it's got such a push. I want to start by getting a look at that and just count the number of F's in that sentence. That's the letter F. And when you have the number, just stick your hand up.
Maybe. Oh. Let's see about it. Missed one.
Sure, thanks. It's a trick. It's just
Yeah.
going through it several times. Okay, I normally go through the big room and just say, put your hand down if you saw one, put your hand down. So, any takers on how many F's?
6.
6. Anybody saw less than 6?
Initially I did,
Yeah. So the ones you normally miss, they on there.
Yeah.
So most people see.
I missed those guys.
Some people see 6. Probably half the people usually see 3, and a few people see 5. For some reason they miss one of the odds. But I use this because it's a bit of an analogy of planning. You know, I look at planning and it's make sure you don't miss any F's. That's what planning's all about. So the key thing I want to get away from is it's all about this piece of paper that you produce. Planning's not about the piece of paper. It's about the performance you want. And so today we're going to go through the process of planning. So it's the process how you live every day as a coach with a plan. So it's not, yes, you'll need a piece of paper, but it's not about the piece of paper. So just chat to the person next to you, got even numbers, and just answer these 2 questions. Just have a bit of a chat. What was the biggest disappointment in your sporting career or your coaching career? And what would you do differently next time? A couple of minutes on that.
Rehash all these bad thoughts. I'm like, seriously, I've done this. Go, Jason.
Coaching, I guess, sporting, getting into
You can
I
choose.
wouldn't make the substitutions that I did when I did.
That's not really something you can do differently next time.
Set the balance. We joke about it now.
There's things I've encouraged about it. I just my finger on one thing and say that's the biggest.
Wasn't like it again, so. So.
The biggest advantage you always have.
Okay, so the very fact of just going through that means you're already planning, because this is one of the things I'm going to dig into a little bit more later on, but it's called the action learning cycle. And the action learning cycle means you continually trying to improve your performance. You plan, you act, you get information on how you act, and then you reflect on that, which is just what you did then. You were just reflecting, okay, well, what would I do differently next time? And you change the plan based on that. So you see, this is not about this piece of paper that I was talking about. This is about this process of going through this action learning cycle, reflecting it. When you think about it, it's how you coach, isn't it? Now, if you run a session coaching, you think, what went well, what didn't go well, what do I need to change next time? Did I do too much of this? Did I do too little? So it's how you coach as a coach. And it's the same thing in planning as the action learning cycle. I just want to start with just some things that underline planning. When we talk about planning, these are just sort of tenets that I guess in high performance sport, this is what we believe. Planning should be coach-led. It's focused on the athlete and it's about performance. It's this ongoing process. It's not a one-off, you do it once a year and then you put the plan in your drawer and you don't see it again until next year. One of the key things just shown in that action learning cycle is you're regularly reviewing, you're tracking progress, and you're changing if you need to. It's not set in stone plans. One thing I always believe really strongly with, and this is part of the reason we've got Mark here, is you get an external critique on your plan, or a peer. So once you have put that piece of paper together, you just say, well, what do you think about this? And I believe in that one really strongly, is let somebody else have a look at your plan. Because they might just ask a dumb question and you think, oh, I hadn't thought of that one. Why do we do it that way? It makes the plan maybe a little bit better. And the other thing is, it's not all data driven and it's not all opinion. So you've got to balance that subjective and objective data that you get. It's not just about your opinion or the athlete's opinion. It's not just about data. It's getting that balance between the two, and that's what helps in putting your plan together. This is a quote one of our planners, David Seifeld, uses. That's how he views his job. So, part of the action learning process is Mark will have already seen that I think 5 of my 6 first slides in this year's presentation are different from last year's presentation because I reflected on presenting this all around New Zealand and I thought, how can we engage coaches more and get them away from this piece of paper idea? And what I'm going to start with is that big A3 in front of you. So this is a process we went through. It took us about 9 months, and I'm going to talk to that, but you can just follow it on the A3. I'm going to sort of give you an overview of that, and then I'm going to delve down into each of the 4 outside boxes a little bit more. So if we look at it, it's about preparing to perform. These are the 5 fundamentals, I guess, we came up with in the process of planning. And as I say, I'll dig down to each one in a little bit more detail. The first thing is you've got to be clear what you're trying to do. So this clarity of purpose drives everything. If you're not clear about what you're trying to do in your program, then your plan is going to suffer. So that's why that clarity of purpose box sits in the middle. That drives everything that you do in the planning process. Now, I'm not going to delve down into this box at all, but these are the team sport coaches will know this well. This is about getting a vision for your team, what are we about. But for an individual sport coaches, you also need to discuss that with your athlete. What are you here to do? Are you just here for a social occasion, or are you here to try to perform? And as long as you know and you've agreed on what that reason is, then it helps you formulate the plan a lot better. Then in no particular order, I'll start with this box. So one of the first things we discovered, this is one of the things that coaches find the hardest, is understanding what it takes to perform. Because if you don't know what it takes to perform, then you can't put a plan together. And as a result of this, and As I say, I'll delve down and show you how to benchmark and do some gap analysis. No rowing coaches here, but they use a thing called prognostics. You get these behaviours that occur. So all the words not in boxes are what we call behaviours or actions. You have to have honest conversations to understand what it takes to perform. So these honest conversations between coach and athlete need to occur. If the athlete thinks one thing and the coach thinks another thing, then we better resolve that, or else how can we put a plan together, because we're on different pages. These honest conversations help give ownership to both the coach and the athlete. And one of the key things in this is it sort of simplifies things. There's so many things that make up performance, but what are the big rocks? You know, you talked about priorities before. What are the priorities that we really must do? And so this is a major step, understanding what it takes to perform and planning. Next step that leads on to is what we call critical thinking, and that's where the plan gets developed. And that's where you'll have arguments. Hamish Carter, who's in our performance planning team, he says, you know, planning can get ugly, but get ugly early. Get it out of the way. So if you're going to have discussions, heated discussions, have them early. So planning is not just about the athlete listening to the coach. If you want the athlete to buy in, they've got to have some input as well. And there'll be a lot of debating, there'll be some prioritising, what's more important now, what's more important, especially if you're coaching development athletes, what's more important now in your career versus what's important in 10 years' time in your career. So this requires quite a bit of coach capability, having these discussions. It also gives the athlete responsibility, and everybody around the athlete, there's some accountability. So if you use some support personnel, if you use a strength conditioner, for example, what is the strength conditioner accountable for? That's what will come out of the plan. What are they accountable for? Because they're just supporting the whole plan. It's not their job to run the plan. This is a really, really important one. Are you doing what's in the plan in your everyday environment? Are you training the things that are in the plan, or are you just going through the motions? So the daily training environment has got to align to the performance you want in the plan. And if it doesn't, you've got to seriously question, well, why are we doing this? As a result of that, you're going to get constant feedback. Hopefully you get collaboration from everybody involved in the plan. And you'll get some evidence as to is the plan working or not? Are they improving as they should or not? And this leads on to another thing that's critical, and that's making sure you learn faster than the opposition. So your feedback you're getting from here is part of, as you see in there, the action learning cycle. Are we adjusting because we've learned something? This is not working, or this is working. We're adjusting our plan and we're learning. And this leads you to paying attention to what's really important. So this is the overview of the process of planning that we believe leads to performance. Turn to the person next to you and have a bit of a chat about what you made of that document in front of you. A couple of minutes of glossary talk.
We do it now.
It's just like through their watches and frame.
Right, and I don't like this. We do this chat high performance program.
Halfway through, for absolute reason, because we weren't able to
We also do it
to follow the system. And she didn't have a good performance, so
Yeah,
learning
well,
actually what we learned, that's good. What I'm saying is great to know what she now can do and what she can't do.
yeah,
And that she certainly didn't get the results that we were after, but so much safer. Even though we're doing this now and then, we can, we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a whole
13-year-old, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You'll get 11 like 30 degrees.
Those external.
Well, that's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Degree of resistance that we sometimes we have like organisational planning. The main alignment.
Right, because it's different.
Yeah, exactly. Different levels.
Yeah.
Totally, I guess that's the clarity of purpose as to what that
Keeping people accountable.
Okay, the reason I'm doing this is what's called social constructivism, and it was generated by a Russian guy called Vygotsky. And his argument was, you can learn and construct knowledge by yourself, but the radius of constructing knowledge by yourself is very small, little r. If you discuss with others, you'll get a lot better learning and construction out of the knowledge, and so the radius of social constructivism is much bigger. So we'll be doing this quite a bit through the whole presentation. I'll just ask you to just discuss with and hopefully by the end of it your basic knowledge will be a lot greater than just listening to me, because I can only provide you with a little bit of knowledge. Okay, now I'm going to dig down to each of these boxes, and I'm just going to go randomly. I'm not going to go in an order or anything, so I'm going to start with the bottom boxes, and that's learning faster than the opposition. But just before I do, I just want to talk about what's in scope and what's out of scope in planning. So this model will work in any type of planning, but the area I'm going to spend a lot of time in is what's called your individual performance plan. So I started off talking about campaign plans, and campaign plans have a whole lot of other plans in them, but the individual performance plan is what is required by the individual to improve, and obviously that impacts on the training plan, which impacts on the weekly plan, which impacts on the daily plan, life plan. Probably doesn't impact so much on the competition plan because your competitions are usually set. But I'm going to spend my time mainly around this, but the model will fit any of those plans. So, where to start? Well, let's start where you ended. The US Army in the early 1960s came up with a thing called an after-action review. And so what they did after every campaign or skirmish, they asked 3 simple questions. And these are the 3 simple questions they use in the after-action review. What did you expect to happen? And that's the question we usually don't ask. What actually happened and what can we learn from this? So this is what debriefs often do after campaigns. They ask these questions, but as I say, what we tend to ask is just what happened. And we normally ask what went well, what didn't go well, and then we'll ask what should we start, stop and keep. But I think it's always useful to start with this one. What did we expect to happen? Yeah. So you talked about your athlete running half a second faster yesterday. What do we expect to happen? Probably expected this to happen. What happened? Wow, ran half a second faster. Wow, what can we take from that? So you get both positives and negatives from that. But it's always good, especially say at the end of the season, to do a debrief and say, what did we learn from it? Because that then is used to input into the next plan. Often, anybody do debriefs here? Do debriefs? What happens to them? File in the drawer, never to be looked at again. So the key thing is use the information from the debrief.
Can you not say that at the start of the season, what do we expect to happen anyway?
Yeah,
type thing?
yeah. So
So
that's what we call a pre-brief. So that's often where that's asked. What do we expect to happen? But you can still ask these questions. What do we expect to go well? What's working? What's not working? So we're quite heavily into pre-briefs now. So before Rio Olympics, every campaign will go through, not every campaign, but most campaigns will go through a pre-brief. What's been going well? What hasn't been going well?
Yeah.
What do you expect to surprise you? And then, data people, they mirror, they look at the pre-brief answers and then they look at the debrief answers and say, okay, what aligned, what didn't align? And so it's just giving you lots and lots of.
Would you agree that one of the issues in sport is that this only happens annually?
Yes, absolutely. And that's why that action learning plan
Yeah.
should be
So in other
happening
words, you
regularly.
go through,
Yeah.
you're knee deep in what you're doing. You start off with your pre-brief and you get it,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you get to the end
And you
and
think,
you're actually learning lessons that you actually could have learned.
we should have changed that in week 2.
Particularly when you involve players.
Yeah.
Senior, you know.
Yeah, this doesn't need to be a time-consuming process. I just heard an SAS guy talk recently, and they talk about a hot wash and a cold wash. The hot wash they do straight after the campaign, and it might only take 5 minutes, and then they do a cold wash when they do a full debrief on it. So, your athlete that ran half set class or quarter set class, you might just spend a couple of minutes of training next week, just say, hey, why did you do this? What was the reason you ran fast? And that's just giving you a little bit of information. And you can choose whether to use it or not to use it. So I agree totally. There's no point in waiting until the end of the season to try and fix something that should have been fixed.
But I don't know that people wait that long. Surely not. I think some of the cyclists that after every training session they're doing that.
That's good.
After
Yeah,
every
and that's
race, I ask mine exactly what went well, what we can do next time, and so on and so forth. After every race, that's every weekend we go through this.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's the action learning cycle. Yeah. But often the formal debrief happens at the end of the year, and as I say, you don't want to wait that long. Because if there's something you can fix it. Don't wait till the end of the year.
We tend to do it informally, you don't document.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Just
Yeah.
have that conversation and get them to think about it and keep moving from there.
Yeah, it may just be informally. Probably somewhere it needs to be recorded. But how you do that, it's up to you. So that's one of the first things in learning fast in opposition. And I love this quote from the US Army, because it's just pretty much common sense, isn't it? Okay, so that's probably rule number 1 is make sure you apply some learning from the last campaign. Don't lose that learning from the last campaign. Okay, second one, you've seen this before, action learning cycle. Probably the area that most people struggle with is actually this one. How do I reflect? And so just 3 simple questions you can ask in reflection. What does this mean? So what? And now what? Really simple. It's making meaning from the information and the data that you gather. And just such simple questions. It actually came from Mike Chidwood, who's a brought that one in there. It's just such a simple question.
Sometimes though with students, I know it might be different at different levels. How did it go? Good. It's asking the right question and listening, observing everything, and sometimes now what? Oh, it doesn't really work.
Okay, so the 2 words to avoid are how and why. So, who's got kids at school? How was school today? Good.
Yeah.
So you just don't ever ask the how question. And the why tends to, why did you do that? That's going to give you defensiveness. So you replace that with, what was good at school today? Well, what did you learn at school today? What was the reason you did that? And then you can get a conversation out of it. But if you ask the how and why questions, you just get either defensiveness or good.
I've had to ban some of my kids from giving me 1 or 2 word answers. I've banned them from giving. I said, no, that's not what I'm looking for.
I mean, you can, when they go good, you can say, well, what was good?
Yeah.
But you can start by saying, what was good? Anybody read this book? Yeah, Craig talked a bit about this mindset. So, Carol Dweck's she's a psychology professor at Stanford University, and she's written a bit on sport, but she originally started this, she did some studies on 10-year-old maths students, I think. That's where her original work was. What she did is she paired them up with similar scores, similar test results, and then one group was given praise by, you must be so clever to get the results you got in your tests, and they were continually reinforced with those types of comments. You must be so clever, or in sport, you're so talented. And the other group was given feedback as to, you must have worked so hard. You must have put a lot of effort into that to get those test scores. And then monitored test scores after that. Which group do you think performed better? The group that was praised for their talent, or the group that was praised for their effort? And that's just been shown time and time again. So this whole concept of mindset talks about fixed mindset, which is praising for talent, and growth mindset, which is praising for effort. So this is where planning happens every day. So fixed mindset individuals, and I'm sure you can all relate to athletes that have got a fixed mindset. It's all about how talented I am, and when things get tough, I'm just going to find an injury suddenly occurred, or can't make training missed today. Whereas growth mindset people, they embrace it. They just say, wow, what a learning opportunity. I didn't perform well today. What a learning opportunity that was. What can I learn from that?
What are your thoughts then on early talent identification and how that develops?
So did this happen in Wellington? You probably need to talk to Ken Lynch, who's our talent development specialist on that. I remember reading an article about 5 years ago, and they said, countries around the world are spending millions and millions on talent identification, and we still don't know how to identify talent, but they keep spending millions and millions on talent identification. I think there are some things that you can look for. I mean, that would be certainly one thing, is growth mindset. That's, I think, everybody would agree now, is you want people with growth mindset in your talent. So people that try hard, put a lot of effort in, absolutely embrace them, because they will always
A
overperform.
lot of our programs don't do that though, do they?
No. Well, netball especially, they've always picked goal shoots and goalkeepers that are tall, often lazy, but they get there because of their height. And so they pick their youth teams based on that, because it gets results at that age. And that's what I always argue. At junior level, talent will always win at junior level, because have you heard of the 10,000 hour rule? It's not 10,000 hours, by the way. It's 10,000 plus or minus 6,000, so it's quite a wide range. But you've got to put a lot of training in to be good at senior level. But at junior level, you haven't done the X thousand hours that you need. So you always succeed based on your natural talent at junior level. And senior level, everyone's talented. Plus, the people that have put the effort and work in are rising to the top. So, I don't know, do you want to comment on growth mindset, fixed mindset, and talent identification?
Not any more than what we have really, but it's really just all in the way you communicate to your athletes. I mean, it's a matter of recognising effort and emotion, and that should be the cornerstone of the program. Is always looking for effort and emotion.
There's been a bit of debate online with teachers and praising effort, because growth mindset, what I was reading lately, has been taken to a little bit of an extreme in that, and effort is being praised, and a little bit like what we were talking on the way over. And the teachers said that was good effort, well done on doing that, but actually the effort was minimal, or there was not a lot of effort put in, and so teachers, and so Carol Dweck has come out and said that's not what I was suggesting.
No,
That's
I agree. It's
not
not
at all
praising
what I'm.
when there's no effort.
When
It's
the
not
effort
praising.
is nothing,
Yeah, exactly.
then you can't praise.
Yeah.
Or you can't praise anything.
No,
So
exactly.
that's
Exactly.
you need to. That's what you need to sort of be saying to them as well. So she's had to come out and back up or say, no, you guys take it to the wrong level.
Yeah.
That's not what
Yeah.
I mean. I mean this.
Yeah, you don't praise when there's no effort there. Don't praise for it.
No, and that's what teachers apparently have been doing,
Yeah.
thinking that they were encouraging a growth mindset.
No,
But
you only
not.
praise when the effort
Yeah.
has been put in, and as opposed to praising for the your
Yeah.
talent.
And that's having a really good understanding of your athletes or your people in your class.
That's exactly right.
It's individualising.
Totally.
IPPs, that's really individualising your planning. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember one little girl. She was quite a good runner, and she just wouldn't train at school. And she came third in the cross country, and I said, and the dad said, oh, she didn't need to train, she was third. And I said, well, just imagine if she'd had worked a little bit harder at school and actually done our running training. Imagine if she'd done, she might have come better than third. And you could just see that reflected, her attitude coming straight from him, didn't have to work hard, fixed mindset, didn't want to train, but still was quite good at running. She was not going to go anywhere as a runner.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. You just don't praise because you think that's the right thing to do. You praise if the effort's been put in, you praise for it. But it does raise a good point that, especially at age group development level, how do you select?
So just because I'll be tipping young fellas out of our program in year 2, that are aligned to the New Zealand under-20s team outcome. And they're just up in arms. Well, how can you do that? How can you
Because
suspend them from the program because they're 2 weeks out from naming him in a national camp? I don't care. I'm actually not driving my program for your outcomes.
Yeah.
So, do you know what I mean? And it's massive. And it's the same in schools, isn't it?
I think that's a tricky one because you see, if they're getting this at home from the parents, how are you going to influence that when you're only seeing them 3 or 4 times a week? If they're getting that, 24/7 from their parents, I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that one.
That's always tricky, and I think that's why you've got to have a good relationship and a rapport with the parents. And you really do need to, as you guys know, you've got to be really clear on what your philosophy is, and you've got to be able to then articulate your philosophy to your because they need to understand what you stand for. And I think if you avoid doing that, or you don't do that, so you don't indoctrinate the parents in your way of thinking, then down the track you will have confusions, because the parents will always take the view that it's all about result and outcome and those sorts of things for kids. So every event is a defining moment for a parent, but it shouldn't be for an athlete. It should be an opportunity to learn and grow and evolve. And if you can sort of really get your parents to understand that that's what you're pushing for within the program, and they start to buy into that, which they will do if you're consistent in your message, then you can really save yourself a lot of bother.
There's always another school or another province or another club
Absolutely.
in an athlete or parents.
Yeah.
I think this is the issue with academies and schools, because school principals want to see success out of their academies. And how do you measure success at school levels? Winning the title awards. Yeah, and so there's this real tension there.
Just something on that though, also, I think one of the problems with academies, I'm not sure if we've used this before, one of the problems with academies is that they actually, by inference, they give the athlete or the child the perspective that you're now responsible for their development within the sport. So I think when I look at academy structures now, I think we've lost, or a lot of kids have lost the ability to free play, and have lost the ability to be able to go out there and just spend periods of time just working on skill sets without being specifically regimented by it.
I think it's easier for parents these days to pay a bit of money and say, you do it,
You're
rather than me
responsible
getting out
for
the
it.
backyard and doing this stuff with my kids.
It's way easier. It's like a lazy attitude.
Yeah.
Like, my kids are not going to join any team sport until they're about 10, because I don't think I should have to shuttle them from sport to sport. Swimming pool, pay someone to take coaching. when I can take them to the swimming pool myself. Do you know what I mean? And have fun in the pool
Yeah, right.
and go under and learn.
Like,
like-
you're out of a
Yeah,
job.
I know. Don't send them to fight people. I think they're not
Yeah, I think-
We're all out of job.
When you look at the data, the correlation between world junior champions and world senior champions, Steve Holland's done some great stuff in athletics on that. It is just non-existent.
Yeah. It's a
It's,
cycle.
and so, but there's a great book. What's it called? It's written on the American. It's written in America, the American school system, and it's about how the American sport's been hijacked by the school system and the college system, scholarships. And there's a chapter in it, and it shows this family that had 5 kids, and they wanted their kids to have college scholarships. But to have college scholarships, you've got to perform in high school. And to perform in high school, you've got to be performing at junior school to get the right coaches. And so they went and they spent all this money on getting their kids coached from the age of 5 all the way up. And it worked out they'd spent about $1 million on their 5 kids getting this personalised coaching all the way through their school career. And then the conclusion was, well, the scholarships are not worth that amount of money that you're going to get. So just spend $1 million, and it's fascinating.
Could be
So-
a stigma attached to my child's got a scholarship, or my 5 children has got scholarships.
Yeah,
It's interesting, what Graham's saying there, because the statistic actually is, I think it's in excess of 70% of junior world champions are repeated seniors. So that means that the requirements for being a junior world champion are clearly different than the requirements for being a champion at senior level.
And in athletics, it's worse from youth to senior.
yeah.
And what basically, I think it's almost 95% of them.
The number of
Oh,
junior world
it's
champions that
cycling.
make it to world senior
Is it the,
champions.
is it the transition between junior and senior though? Because I know in my sport the transition is massive. So I don't know about other
Yeah.
sports, but moving
Yeah.
from junior competition to senior competition at quite a young age.
But I think it's because of that though, Rachel. I think it's because at a junior level, kids have learned that it's all about winning.
Natural.
Yeah.
representation.
Whereas at a senior level, it's about having the kind of habits or behaviours that allow you to be successful. Look, I mean, if I sort of talk in specifics, I mean, that was the problem. I mean, I've spoken to you guys about Terenzo Bazzoni, who I spent a lot of time with, but that was the problem with Terenzo. Like Terenzo was an unbelievably successful schoolboy athlete, but what he because he was so successful, to be honest, his school just encouraged him to continue on the path that he was on. But there were so many things that were missing in his makeup when he got to the senior level, more than anything else, because he just hadn't established the kind of resilience or habits that allowed him to continue to sort of take setbacks and work with them and keep growing and building through them. And I think that's the problem. It's easier to look at an outcome and say, well, this kid's a superstar because they're winning everything at school. But there are so many peripheral things that have to sort of be in place in order for someone to be able to really sustain at an international level, because there are so many obstacles that get thrown up in your particularly if you come from New Zealand, because you're travelling all the time, and you're travelling generally in most sports, you're travelling on a pretty low budget. So your ability to be able to manage yourself through various things and various affairs is paramount to being able to succeed. You've got to be able to turn up on a given day and be ready to perform, and the way you've got there may not be as conducive as you'd want it to be, because you've just had all these hardships to get through.
I look at the group of schoolgirls that we've had over a 5-year period, and the ones that made New Zealand while I was still at school, none of them were still involved in the New Zealand contracted group, but the kid that didn't make it, when all her friends were making New Zealand, worked her ass off and had the growth mindset the whole way through, and now she's contracted. And so I now I look back and go, I wonder if kids making New Zealand representative women's teams at 16 and 17 give them a false sense of security, and they're making it off their natural ability at that age, and then seeing the ones who don't make it, go into contracts. And I think the kid that has made it now at 18, I think she'll stay there for a long time, but she had that in her anyway, because we coached very much a growth mindset. But when you're naturally talented, no matter how much you coach growth mindset, when you're the best at everything you do at school, at touch, at rugby, it's really hard to change that in that person. Even though I coached them for 5 years, those naturally gifted kids are still naturally gifted, and I don't know, I think it's quite hard to coach that out of them.
I think it actually is what Graham's talking about, Dave. What you find with those kids is their awareness isn't great enough, so therefore their planning isn't great enough. So they don't actually understand these are the aspects of my performance that I need to really put some attention to or focus some attention to, or the things that are really good and can allow me to become really successful. Whereas the kids that aren't getting recognised, constantly thinking, well, what do I need to do to put myself in a position where I can become as good as I can be? And I think that's probably a part of the solution of why things have happened the way they have. Because the kids who've been identified have thought, well, we're pretty much a finished product, fixed mindset. Whereas the kids who aren't there have been sort of thinking, well, what do I need to do to appeal to the people who are selecting teams here?
But then are they all doing that? Because my worry is that you lose a lot of kids to sport because they're not identified early and they
Don't get selected.
and
Yeah,
they don't
I agree
get
with
so
that.
then they're out of they kind of almost become fixed mindset, go, well, I'm not good enough, got no shot.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough at 10, probably won't be good enough at 16.
Exactly
so
right.
That's
We
not
lose
fair,
them.
that's a reality.
Yeah.
And it's a massive reality.
That's
And
right.
the parents as well
Because that is,
watching.
I'm sorry, that is,
Yeah, and I'll
high school sport.
move into that a little bit when
They've done it for 15
Yeah.
because they haven't made the top
That's right.
20.
And that really narrows your population,
Well, it
because
does.
you've lost the kids that were identified potentially haven't got habit that allows them to grow. The kids that haven't been identified have walked away from the sport because they're just losing with the sport. So you've got a really small group who have actually, got whatever it takes, or the resilience, I guess, to sort of handle the knocks and continue to
I guess
grow.
that comes back to the parents, doesn't it? Like, parents have to.
create the environment.
Well, they do.
Yeah, I
In
mean,
New Zealand rugby blame coaching. Secondary
Well,
school
parents
coaching.
playing coaching too.
But you haven't made it so they really want to come back.
well, that's
Hang
the
on,
issue
they all decided they weren't
because
going to come back when they didn't make the top 30.
if the parents think they're not performing, oh, that's the coach's fault. The coach may be planning their development absolutely brilliantly, but this is where I'll come on to the slide in a minute. If your goals are misaligned, then you're going to have this tension, and it's ideally, because people say, oh, but you want the talent. Yeah, you want people that are talented with a growth mindset. So they're the ones that are the real champions. But often you'll get people that are less talented succeeding better because they've got a growth mindset than the ones that are very talented but have a fixed mindset. Ideally, you want both, but those are the Roger Federers of the world.
So from a
Parents
big
teaching.
picture perspective, it's like pie in the sky stuff, but is there any thought from Sport New Zealand, I guess, around not having an age group representative teams? Because I think that just reinforces the fact that we.
This is a topic for a different conversation. This is getting into territory, but it's there is no one easy answer. But I think that's why I think coaching development, this level of coaching development athlete is so important to our future in high performance and in community-based sport, because if we get this right, we can have a massive impact on society in general. But you've still got, people say, oh, it's not PC. No competitions, that's not PC, they've got to learn to win. It's like when netball stops scoring, oh, come on, it's like, the kids know what's happening anyway. But I coached my daughter's netball team when she was about 10, and I remember one game where we didn't check with the opposing scorer at half time what the score was, and we ended up losing by 1 goal. The parents were distraught. The kids were, but 2 minutes later they were laughing and screaming. The parents, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to put a protest? They're 10. What? It's not important to them. They just want to have fun at that age. I'm going to move on because we've got a discussion slide next, but we've just had the discussion slide. But just one final thing. So I work with the football ferns, the women's football team, and I gave the coaches a bit of pretty, not negative feedback, but pretty blunt feedback recently. They were doing a scoring drill where the players were just trying to score a goal, one-on-one with the goalkeeper. And every time they put a ball in, oh, well done, well done. I said to them, hey, that's their job, to score goals, the strikers. When they're scoring one-on-one with the goalkeeper, that's what you expect them to do that. If they do it from a really acute angle or a bicycle kick, then maybe give them some praise. But, you know, if they're not scoring one-on-one with the goalkeeper, how do you expect them to score when there's some opposition there and they're trying to defend it? It's like you're saying, well done for doing your job. That is your job. So it's getting that level of praise. Right. So this was going to be a discussion, but I think we've had a pretty good discussion around this.
Can I say too, though, on that respect, we had some Cycling New Zealand riders come in, and one of them, to ask them about what they wanted more, or is there anything more they needed from coaches, that sort of thing. And one of the little guys, he's 19, and he said he wanted a coach that was as sort of passionate about the sport as him, and who didn't just give him his program and walk away. And I talked to him afterwards about it, and he said it might have been a bit of a tall ask, but having someone who was excited when he was excited, and I know you say it's their job to score goals, but there must be and I know on the sideline at supporting and cheering people who are playing or cycling or whatever it might be, there has to be enthusiasm and a lot of that sort of stuff that's there, which, you know, there's a silent coach that doesn't really say much or do much and all that sort of stuff. But just from his feedback, because I was trying to be a little bit more silent and not get all excited when the kid's doing well and all that sort of stuff. But when I heard what he was saying and how...
No, it was more about every time they scored a goal, well done, well done. It's like, they know when they've done well.
Totally,
and
same with cycling and time-wise.
It's not about not praising them. Praise them, but don't just praise them for something that should be, the keeper's fallen over and you put it in the goal. It's like, don't praise them for that.
Yeah.
If they're at an angle and they put it in the top right corner, it's like, well done on that one. Yeah. Right, as I say, how long have I got, by the way? This is a talkative group, but that's good. Yeah, no, I really like it.
You got another hour and a half.
Oh, yeah. Right. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the top box here, critical thinking. What should actually be in the plan? When you put the plan together, what should be in it? So you need an outcome. You do need an outcome in the plan. What do we want to achieve? And so this could be any of these things. But the key thing is that these are outside the athlete's control. So, the height, they can't determine the height they jump, or they can't determine the distance they throw or the placing, because other people impact on that. What do people think about selection? Should that be an outcome? Goal? Team sport coaches will have an opinion on this one.
For me, if you're going on the growth mindset thing, I'd say no, because if you do everything you can, and then a coach makes a decision on whatever they think the best fit is, then you've done everything you can. So you should be, as an athlete, able to look back and say, I'll put everything I can on the table, and at the end of the day, that's that coach's decision on that. So I'd say.
And the other thing with selection is, if that's their goal, once they get selected, party time, I've achieved my goal.
Yeah.
So you don't want them thinking that's the end, just being selected. You want them performing in the team.
So sometimes, like with athletics, with the standards that they have to get.
So the individual sports, it's actually determined by that.
Yeah, so it's kind of, might not be the end thing, but the process you're going through with the athlete means, okay, we're wanting you to try to get to about here.
Yeah.
So that is sitting there. So selection could be, because if they get this happens.
Yeah, so if they get the time, they'll get selected. So it's not the primary driver, that's the primary driver. Yeah.
So it's the same with trampoline, you're after the scores.
Yeah.
And if you're in a certain percentage, you get selected.
Yeah, exactly. So we need an outcome goal in an IPP, but we also need some processes that go to achieving that outcome. Now these are in the athlete's control. So you can improve your acceleration over 20 metres. You can complete the required number of training sessions. This one's always an interesting one. And you've got a story yesterday, should you compete? So that can be within the athlete's control because he chose not to compete. We often change this one to minimise the impact of injuries on performance rather than saying remain injury free, because like in contact sports you're going to get an injury and it's often outside your control, but are you doing your warm-ups properly? Are you doing your warm-downs? Are you doing your recovery sessions properly? That is within your control. Now, this one always raises, we've sort of discussed a little bit before, make sure that the magnitude of the process goals matches the magnitude of the outcome goals. So if you want to get to here, but you're only doing this, then something has to change, because if you want to be selected for the World Junior Champs team and you're training twice a week, it's like, well, that outcome goal of being selected for the World Junior Champs team, training, the process of training twice a week, they don't match. Something has to change. Either lower the outcome goal, nobody likes doing that, or raise the process goals to the same magnitude as the outcome goal. Now, we get a lot of athletes that they want to do this, but they're not prepared to put the work in to do this. I had a coach in Dunedin who said, oh, that's my son. He wants to be good, but he doesn't want to get out of bed in the morning to go training. I'm like, well, lower the outcome goal, because if you just want to have a social time with your friends, that's fine. If you want to get a New Zealand team, you've got to have the processes at the right level. So how can you determine these? Well, this is a model we've used for quite a while. It's called the GROW model. So you start with, what's the goal? What do you want to achieve? And then, where are you now? What's your current reality? And that's the gap between where you are now and where you want to get to. And then the next step is, well, what are the options to close that gap? And what will you commit to? What are you going to do to close that gap? And that is possibly the most important question you can ask your athletes. What are you going to do to close the gap? Again, a lot of people, they don't look at their current reality. They have a goal, I want to do this, but they don't look at where they are now. Because if they don't know that, then it's very hard to know what you're going to do to close the gap. You need that current reality. So a couple of examples, maybe in an individual sport, that could be your goal, and at the moment you're 8th in the world and you're 27 seconds from the medal. Well, where are you going to get that 27 seconds from? Obviously that's an example from, say, triathlon. But in swimming it might be 1 second. Where are you going to get that 1 second from? In cycling it might be, track cycling it might be 0.2 of a second. Where are you going to get that 0.2 of a second from? What are you going to do to get that? In team sports, might be getting carded by the end of the year. You're a defender, but there are already 8 defenders ahead of you carded. So, what are you going to do to get ahead of those 8 defenders that are already carded? Well, it could be change province, not change position, change province. So, having that conversation and going through that process, what's your goal? Where are you now? What's your current reality? Okay, what are the options to close that? Okay, have a chat amongst yourselves on that one. A couple of minutes.
Honestly, that's exactly what has happened with my players from last year. Strip it all back. Individual reviews at the end of last year. They always see the goals of our team go around their own. Yeah. Individual plans to achieve the things that I think we need to achieve before the really contract thing. This one's easier, they want to progress, they need to be able to both ways. which is exactly what I was trying to find, which I was very passionate about.
Time to say it's time for something to change, so you're either there or you're not, or you're on the track.
Just the others in there, likely, probably have potentially if they made the adjustments, it would have been better for it.
Time for
So just because
Well, yeah, I guess the gap is the options. Are they going to do close the gap? The option was this hard work, unassisted, or because they knew they had to go back and get a part-time job or study as well as training. Or give it up. 22 years old, give it up. 2 years old, and comes well, given up the ghost. I'll play club rugby and I'll go and play rugby, which is really questioning those passion levels. So it's a good outcome for me. It's a good outcome for me.
you drop in there after
Okay, we'll just move on to the next section and then we'll just have a break in about 5 minutes.
What are you expecting? So we have phases. Our boys are now working from to east. What are you expecting to happen between now and then?
So if we go back to, where are you going to get that 27 seconds from? Where are you going to get it? What are the processes that are going to close the current reality to the goal we want? Well, for that to happen, as a coach, you have to understand what's required for performance in the event. And if you don't, then the plan stops there. If you don't understand, find somebody that does. Because this is the critical aspect. We're about to move on to the green blocks here. Understand what makes up performance. Now, there are a few ways you can do that. First is what's called benchmarking. So what you do is you look at your good opposition and you can ask some questions. And here are just some of the questions you can ask. It's not all the questions, but here's some of them. You can check that out. Where are your opposition? Where have they been going over the last 4 years? What are the scores or distances of times, fitness test results that your opposition again? And really important one, what's the rate of improvement? So we had a sport, this is about 7 or 8 years ago, and I won't name the sport, but what they presented to Spark at the time was they showed all their athletes were improving their times. Just about all their athletes were improving their times. So these were their times in seconds or minutes, and they showed, look, over the last 4 years, times are coming down. At the same time, Spark just appointed a guy called James Gibson, who was he came out of a business background, and he started doing analysis on the opposition athletes in the sport. And what he found is, different colour, he found that actually this was happening. The opposition were improving their times too, and they were improving their times faster than our athletes. So actually our athletes were getting further away than the opposition in the rest of the world. And that was quite an eye-opener. So that's why I think that one's quite an important one. What's the rate of improvement in the opposition compared to you? What's the support network like? What do they do? If they're doing different things in training, well, and I'm not saying you copy them, but this is useful information to know. Well, why are they doing better than us? It could just be they've got greater resources and greater money. It could be that. But it could be that they're doing a different type of training. And where do they really hurt people? So it's not that you're taking this for gospel and putting it in your program, but you're gaining some information. You might say, actually, 5 of these things we can't do anything about, but one thing, actually, we're going to change this in our training because of it. we are actually going to adapt our training as a result of that. So this is what's called benchmarking, just finding out what the best opposition are doing. And it's just some background data that you can use. Okay, then we can start doing a gap analysis. Now, to do a gap analysis, I go back to understanding what it takes to perform in the event. So, this is about 4 years ago. I was working with Joe Hunter and Josh Hawkins at Hurdler. I knew nothing about hurdling, but I got Joe to sit down, Joe's the coach, and said, what makes up performance in hurdling? 110 metre hurdles, what makes that? So Joe was a biomechanist, so he's a geek, and he loved this. He said, well, here are the technical aspects of hurdling. This is what makes up performance. So he went through and he just, this is just the technical. I contributed to the finish. I'm quite proud of that. So whatever you finished, you did well. Well, we better put that in too. So he said, yeah, these are the technical aspects of hurdling. And we helped him a little bit in the mental. This is probably a lot different nowadays compared to when he first started, but he said these are the mental things that contribute to performance in hurdling. And here are the physical things, and there were also some social things that the life program looked after. And so he went down and he said, these are the things that contribute to performance in hurdling. As I said, I work with the football ferns. So the football ferns, when it's football, they did the same thing. For us to play the game this way, this is how we're going to play the game. This is what we need in a fullback. So we need support. What does support mean? It means this. We need them to be able to receive the ball. What does that mean? It means this. We need them to pass, blah, blah, blah. So this is just the tactical and technical and tactical. So they've got 4 pillars, and the rugby have got 6. These are the things that make up performance for how we want to play the game in football. And here are the physical things, and here are some of the social emotional things that life outside football. This is what makes up performance in football. One thing we talk about is not all these things have to be perfect. We talk about the 8 out of 10 concept. If some things are only 3 or 4 out of 10, they're going to hold you back. But if you can get most things to be 8 out of 10, you're going to be pretty much world champion. Because those things that are scoring 3 or 4 out of 10, even if you've got a few others that are 10 out of 10, the things that are scoring 3 or 4 out of 10, they're going to hold you back. So not everything has to be perfect, but if you can get most things up to 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, whatever it is, then you're going to be pretty good. The other thing too is it doesn't need to be this detailed. So what I've put up here is this is the pathway to podium profile for a fullback in football. So you see they just talk about support. That's all they talk about. And if I go back to what football had, they had 3 things under support. But for developmental athletes, you might just talk about support. And you might just talk about receiving, passing, blah, blah, blah. So rather than 4 pages of information, you just got 1 page for a developmental athlete. Because if you gave a 15-year-old footballer a full McCoy of what New Zealand football look at, they'd just go, oh, geez, where do I start?
So to me, this is a pretty good way. I don't know, rugby probably uses it, I'm not sure, but if we're having age grade representative teams in sports, surely this stuff should come down to that level as a selection tool, so it becomes a little bit more about what you need, so it follows that pathway to those next steps rather than just subjectively watching and picking the.
Well, this is used for planning, not selection, but you could use it for selection too.
If that's what you're looking for.
And after the break, I'll show. So rugby do it. There's one step that I think rugby miss, but I think they're in the process of looking to change it.
Sticking to it.
Yeah.
2 things that rugby miss.
Selection.
The thing is in rugby, what it was designed for initially was at all black level, and so what's important at All Black level may not be the same thing that's important at developmental level, so it's, we'll go into that after the break. But just before the break, just, anybody here ever been bitten by an elephant? No? A dog, anybody been bitten by a dog? Yeah. Yeah. You got one of these things, it's been bitten by one of those things. Yeah, just remember it's the small things that come back to bite you. That note, we'll have a break.